Hey, Dino.
Hey, you're a little bit in the dark here.
It always starts a little bit dark, but then gets bright as we end the call.
Wow, yes.
That's metaphorical.
Of course. Isn't everything metaphorical? Okay, you were proposing that we talk about collaborology. I was proposing that we talk about, you had prepared for last time.
Yeah.
And so we can continue with that. Up to you, it's your show. So.
Yeah, well, that's the outline that I was hoping to share. So hang on one second, let me bring it up.
Okay, yeah, you're talking not about collaborology course, but about the collaborology outline.
All the content is for the same purpose, is to flesh out the field of collaborology.
Absolutely. Okay, but then we have a deal. I think that is an offer that nobody can refuse.
Okay, so I'm bringing it up now.
I'll just get myself a glass of something that here is.
I'm sharing my screen. Okay, share screen. This here. Okay. Here we go.
I'll be with you in just a sec.
Frode.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. Oh yeah, through this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm only here for a minute. I have some other things to do.
Okay.
I don't see how I can be contributing to these meetings, so just wanted that in person rather than text message.
Yeah, you have, I think, stated that preference before. No problem with that.
What does it mean exactly contributing to these meetings, my friend?
I have my own struggles, as you have your struggles, and I feel that these meetings, these weekday talks are not about collaborology. That is a nice...
I don't hear you.
Frode, your audio dropped off. Shall we wait for Frode?
I know he might still be talking. Is there any way to...
I was hoping he would finish his statement. It sounded like he didn't feel we were actually doing collaborology. And now he's gone.
Okay, let's hope that he comes back. We'll just continue for the time being, I guess.
Okay. All right. So, look, I've at multiple times had multiple different opportunities to collect my own thoughts about collaborology, the content, the core, the fundamental guiding principles, the objective, etc. And so this outline here is essentially my best attempt to try and put that together. And these are done at different times, and so there's a lot of reorganization that needs to happen. So this is how I'm thinking about it. But the collaborapedia.info site is how I'm hoping it gets presented to the public. So I'm kind of sharing how I'm thinking about it internally in my own brain, in my own mind, so that we can work together on this. Now, if your preference, and by you, I mean the greater you, not just you, Dino, but everybody who hears this and sees this, is that I actually develop things and publish them rather than share them as work in progress, then this is not going to be very satisfying. But I think it's a field I don't feel I can do completely on my own. And that's why I really seek others to give me feedback on rather than
doing collaborology on your own, that's a contradiction.
Exactly. That's the misnomer, right? Completely.
Yeah, of course.
That's why I really want to invite others to develop this with me.
Of course, but Frode is here back with us, so let's give him a moment to.
Frode, you're back. I think you were saying that these calls were not actually about collaborology or not doing collaborology. Would you like to finish your statement?
Again, we don't hear you. If you hear us.
Yeah, you're on mute, Frode.
Okay, is that better?
Much better.
Right. Okay. So the notion, the way that I see it is, with the time browser, that's been just, to me, a bit wishy-washy, and that's fair enough. I'm trying desperately to rescue my main project author, and I know you both feel that the notion of a word processor is very old-fashioned and not very useful, and that's fair enough. But I don't know, Dino, you probably haven't, Sam hasn't mentioned, but we had a discussion yesterday, which there was a new aspect of something to do with video and time, and I felt that Sam was dismissive in the extreme. I don't expect that from this group. I expect this group to be more, that's interesting, how can we make it fit, how can we make it work? His comments were, that's just video search. And then it was, that's useful for 20% of the instances, rather than, which of course no system is good for all instances. So it was just hammer blows again and again. I used to go to these calls to be inspired to do something useful. The calls with you, Dino. No, that's not interesting. Let's wait to see what the brothers have to do. You can contribute to that. And they don't even want to talk to us. So yeah, that's why I can't see this being real collaborology, and I can't see that my contribution is either appreciated or useful.
But listen, I'm the last guy you can accuse of not appreciating you and not being in dialogue and being derogatory. I don't ever say no, this is not useful or anything like that. This is, I think, completely your interpretation. It's a question of priorities, right? And my sense. And I will quote one more gentleman in our midst with whom I had a very nice conversation this morning. That is our friend Alf. So I can say Alf and I, we both feel that we are in a field of enormous opportunities that are difficult for people to grasp in general, even in our own group. And so let's just be patient with it. But the possibilities are the bigger the possibilities are, the more difficult it is to actually grasp what goes on. Especially have some kind of adjusted common understanding of things. But my sense is that we are getting there. We have been getting there all along. You see, our friend Sam, he has survived through an enormous amount of this over the years. And my feeling is that we are converging constantly. It takes a little bit of patience and time. And so, Frode, it's not that I would even have patience with ourselves, right? Just leave room for the possibility that unexpected things can still happen in our midst, and even big unexpected things. So let's not rush to jump to any kind of conclusion. Over for the time being. In other words, my dear friend, let's go ahead. Let's have a real dialogue in the sense that not blame, not judge, not ourselves, not others, essentially give room for things to emerge, and they will. We're good people, all of us.
I don't see that that room exists. I know everyone here are good people. I know you all have extremely good intentions. But the room for things to grow for you is exclusively, I see it as polyscopy. For Sam, I see it exclusively as being the acronyms on his charts. The notion of integrating with other ideas, I see as being absent. Yesterday, one thing I suggested, I think, at least I wanted to, Sam, was, and I know you would have agreed, but on that chart, I want to see things like internet, the actual components of the world today that we can use. It seems that a lot of the discussions here are, and this goes for all of us, everybody in this community, it's bubbles. This is my bubble, that's your bubble. Let's not even look at what exists.
Oh my God, but listen, if you observe Dino carefully, you will see that I'm playing in Alexander Laszlo's field at least 60% of my time, in addition to all my crazy projects and things. So you cannot say these things. No,
Dino, it's not a reflection on you. Of course, what you're saying is entirely true, but this is how I feel in the group, and I therefore don't want to be continuing to waste time, as in waste your time, because obviously, anyway.
Frode, I know you and I haven't spoken since yesterday. And I do feel that the way you characterized the conversation yesterday, I think is a bit unfair. I think that my asking questions is an attempt to understand and not to criticize. And so since you agreed to make that call public, it is available to be shared. I haven't announced it, but I have shared it with Haria only. I've not yet shared it with anyone else. And I also invite anyone who says, okay, if I was out of line, I want to definitely, scale that back. I already want to apologize to you, but these attempts to try and say, is this or is this that, is an attempt to understand what I understand, what you are, and where the gap is, okay? That's the way I'm just asking questions. Now, if you feel that's criticism, then I can ask a different way. But right now, I do feel that you jump to assume a certain negativity on my part that is actually not there. All the use cases you mentioned about Time Browser, about this video thing, are completely sensible. And I even said that the minute you said that. All I was trying to do is understand the next set of implications. And if you don't allow me to understand those next set of implications, then what good is dialogue? All I can do here is sort of nod my head, say yes, then what, okay? I'm trying to understand in a deeper way. And if I can't ask those questions and can't come across that way, then I don't know how the dialogue should unfold and how you would like to see it unfold.
Yeah.
That all sounds well and grand, but that is not at all how I perceived the conversation yesterday. You kept saying, well, that's just video search. I was like, well, no, it's a different thing. Well, that's just video search. We can just cobble it together. It's just video search. And then what? Please tell me, how is it useful to say again? And I'm not. Hang on. Let me ask you a question. How is it useful to keep saying it's only useful in 20% of cases? You said that quite a few times. Look at the transcript.
Yes.
Would I ever say that to one of your projects? This is useful in a certain amount of time only. How is that relevant?
The point is, where could this go wrong? How could it be abused? What mis-expectations could it set? What are the human systems evolution practices that need to co-evolve around it so that it is done well and not done poorly? Those are all, I think, reasonable questions when we're trying to put together a tool. We're not just talking about the technology. We're talking about how we utilize it, how we evolve it, how we co-practice it. Okay.
That was not part of yesterday's discussion.
Please listen to it again. Okay, Dino, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm saying let's limit this to 1 more minute. My point is that we need genuine dialogue, and just wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to challenge you again, Frode. Be there, be square. I'm going to put the basic issue of the Alexander Laszlo opportunity and the human system tool system co-evolution 1 more time, right? And then you're going to jump at me and you're not going to let me speak 1 more time. But then we record and you watch that video and you'll see your own picture, my dear sir. You will see that, we all have our share of not listening. So let's not blame others. Let's just basically use this golden opportunity among amigos to learn how to listen. Okay?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you feel that I cut you off, Dino, and that I don't listen. I apologize for that. I thought we had a good conversation a few weeks ago on polyscopy, and as you're pointing out,
we did. Sorry, that's totally right. We did have an amazingly good conversation.
Yeah, and I'm not. And you have raised completely correct criticisms about me and what you just said, and I accept them, and I agree with them. That's very, very different from what I said at the beginning of the call, and I agree with you. We should finish this within a few seconds. My call was a matter of the way I see not having support in the group and not being useful, which is very different from what you pointed out. But with that, I will apologize and withdraw.
Okay, I mean, everything is okay. Just don't withdraw in your mind. Stay with it, because as I'm saying, things are just about to happen.
Well, it's about to happen for you, Dino, and I think that is wonderful. I think it is about to happen for Sam. I can't see how it's happening together. Now that I'm having to give up on my other project, I basically am too fragile to be in this community, and I'm going to be looking at something entirely outside of text. Excuse me, technology.
But listen to me. Okay, I mean, you're free to do whatever you want, obviously. But these kind of moments, they're gold, right? They're golden moments of transition. And if you cut them short, if you decide before even going into the moment what you're going to do, you're not taking the gold. You're basically just throwing it into the mud and rushing forward into your next failure. So stay with it.
But Dino, that is what I'm an expert at doing, so I will continue to do what I'm good at. I'm very good at rushing from failure to failure. Anyway, please get on with the main topic of today.
Hey, Frode, one last comment before you go, and that is, from time to time, each of us, David, Dino, and I, and then others, like yourself, have had moments that say, hey, we need to withdraw a little bit. Let me breathe. Let me get a little bit of time. But each of us always comes back because we believe that we're well-intentioned, that we're really trying to do something here. Even though none of us are perfect at it, we're still trying to understand how to do this. I think it's perfectly natural for you to actually withdraw for a while and say, this is not for me. I don't know how to be here. The others don't support me. And if you really would like to examine that for a while, there is something here that we each come back to. And it's not necessary for each of us to be here every day. But let me also say, there's a way of viewing the conversation yesterday that might be useful if you really want to consider it. And that is a conversation I'm willing to have with you, but you don't have to do it now. You don't have to do it ever. Okay, I'm just saying I'm here to go through that and how I show up in my conversations with you, and I'm willing to correct whatever I'm doing that's, let's say, impolite or improper or inappropriate or even, downright negative. But I also want to, to at least state that all of my intentions and all of my attempts are, quite frankly, trying to collaborate. I'm really trying to do something here that's useful. And if you feel that that's not the way it is and it's not for you, you're completely free to withdraw. But to understand how I come across and how I'm really trying to collaborate might put a different perspective on yesterday. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's fine. I understand that people have gone through this, but at this point, I feel a complete, clear, 100% track record and being able to contribute in this space at all. So, I felt different about the conversation yesterday and other conversations. When author first had its major hurdle, and now today it seems like there's another one that, I basically told them to bugger off because they can't finish. Sending me nice stories about Chinese horses. If you had a life passion that was related to this and it was failing, I hope I wouldn't just say, philosophical things of why it failed. I thought I would be supportive. And what you both said now, Dino is talking about things emerging for him. I think you're talking about things emerging for you. I've been taking too much of your time. And yeah, I'm just going to have to do something entirely different. I'm sorry that I could not contribute to you guys.
Yes, okay. You were creating something. I'm not going to let you say these things and then just withdraw. We were creating something good in Time Browser. You're creating something good in Author. We are looking at how those can integrate. It is not a simple thing, but for you to take, some small number of conversations in a period where you are under a lot of stress and then dismiss us as saying we're not trying to understand or apply collaborology, I think in the scheme of things is going to be very unfair. And I think that you should really, really consider that we are trying to do good things. We are trying to work with you. You're under a lot of stress right now, but you're actually flinging a lot of accusations around. And I think that we have to hold each other accountable and say, there is a possible other way to look at this.
Sam, that's absolutely fine. And I am apologizing. Yeah, I know you guys desperately are trying to walk the walk. I know that you've managed to do it with each other. And when it comes to things like Author, I mean, for the life of me, I cannot understand how it seems the rest of the world feels that the written word is something to get rid of, move to the next step, because here we have a moving picture.
Not at all. How do you come to that conclusion?
Well, the conclusion is that there's been so many discussions of, things have to be dynamic. They have to be this and that. Yes, you did agree yesterday that the frozen document is useful in some way. Then we had the long transclusion discussion as well, right? It's just, I just hoped at some point to find a community where it will be a question of what are you doing with Author? How is it useful? Can it maybe be modified here? There hasn't actually been a single supportive moment that I have felt from anybody in this community on Author. It's been about these other things, and these other things are fine. But there comes a point where my ego is not big enough to just spend time on other things. That's why I'm going to have to give up this one. It's not your fault. You guys are doing great work. I'm not slinging accusations at all. I'm apologizing that I wasn't able to integrate.
Well, I've had some supportive moments.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm saying I had some supportive moments toward Author and you, and I can document them. I even wrote them down. Number one. And number two, I think you're vastly underestimating the potential of your dear friends. And underestimating the potential of your dear friends is underestimating the potential that you have with your own dear friends. So, take a walk and think a few days, and I really hope you come back into the conversation. I'll be happy to talk one-to-one at any moment, about personal things or about work. I've had, difficult moments, ups and downs over the years. So I have some great experience in both handling this and finding wisdom in those moments. So if I can be of any help, call on me.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yes. So just for the record, I will put the link for yesterday's call in the Amigos group, and I'll make it available publicly as normal on YouTube. And should there be anybody who really wants to understand what happened yesterday, it's public record, okay? And whatever day it is, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's 10 years from now, if anybody watches it and says, Sam, here's what you actually could have done, I invite that, okay? I really want to invite that and really, learn how to show up better, okay? And that's all I can say,
Right. But, I'm when these creative processes go individual and group, there is quite an art in letting go of things, right? And my sense is that Frode is going through one of those moments when that kind of art is.
We all have those moments.
Of
We
course.
all recognize we're all human. We all have ups and downs. We all have seasons in our life.
And to make sure, you know, that we don't misjudge the value of his work. My sense is that author may just well be exactly making the point that all these big guys like Microsoft and Apple actually missed. He's doing it right. It still doesn't mean that he will succeed with it commercially, and you know there are obvious reasons for that. These guys are just too big.
The best products don't succeed commercially. You know, the best products don't succeed commercially. We've seen it many times. You know,
of course. So you know,
Betamax. You know, is it the outline processor? Is it living video text? Is it Arabesque Echo? Is it Improv from Lotus? You know. All those great products are now gone.
Yes.
They're great ideas, but they weren't accepted by, let's say, the masses.
Yes, I think a Wave is also a good example. The Google Wave. I think they had.
Google Wave was not a good product.
Not a good product.
Horrible.
I don't know, but I think it was a good idea. You know, they basically said,
a good idea. Other implementations of it have been better, including my own. I'm very biased. Okay, but again, even that is not a commercially, you know, successful product.
That's it.
There are many ways to support and yet still not guarantee commercial success.
Okay, we dive into collaborology. It's high time. We have been postponing this for so long that if you do it one more time, then I think collaborology will start rotting on the paper.
Not in my mind, okay? But what I'm looking at is for us to really interact on collaborology itself. We talk a lot about collaborology. We talk about doing a course. We talk about doing this, talk about building bridges, but we don't talk enough about the actual content of collaborology. And that's what I've been trying to stimulate. And try.
Perfect. Let's take a deep dive. Let's not, no meta.
All right, what is it now? It is 32 minutes past the hour. Let's transition from the previous conversation into collaborology.
Yes.
Here we are. Let me share my screen again. Okay. So as I was mentioning before, on multiple occasions, I've been trying to outline and just do stream of consciousness on what boundary conditions I think help define this space that I'm calling collaborology, and hopefully other people might agree, okay? So there's multiple different outlines that yesterday I just pulled together, so this may not yet seem like a coherent single outline, but that's because it was done at multiple times, and so there may be some redundancies, but that's the opportunity, I think, to sort of, with you and hopefully others that are looking at this video, to try and come up with some way to look at this space and maybe even envision it differently, okay? Mm-hmm. So I start with try to gather some assumptions. We should even have, actual definitions in here. Okay?
Sorry, one sec. Let me just ask you this. Yeah. So shall we say that we are outlining, that we are in the process of defining a domain map of collaborology? What the whole terrain is, right?
Yes.
And then we are in a dialogue to basically trace the basic contours.
Yes. So I know it's in here somewhere, for example, but let me put it down again, okay? That last phrase I don't usually include, but this is how I'm thinking about collaborology. It's how does collaboration scale successfully, eventually to global scales. And collaborology is the study of principles and practices by which that actually takes place. So,
right. Okay. So hang on. There is the study of, and you can say a set of principles and practices, or you can say a praxis by which. But the study of, it's for me a little bit too old-fashioned epistemology, because I'm interested in being the system, if you see what I mean. It's basically bootstrapping collaborology rather than. This is my epistemology, right? So if we can find some common terrain there, then we're building bridges.
So it's not just a study, although I think the study is necessary. How about study and application?
The application is great, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
Is that sufficient, or do you want to suggest something more?
No. I mean, we can tweak it, but it's all there as far as I'm concerned as meaning. So we can.
All right, good. Okay, so the next key point is that if we're trying to hit global scale, then we're not talking about any single organizational entity, right? We're talking about multiple autonomous entities. Multiple because we don't envision, or at least we hope we don't see, a single world government or a single world corporation or a single other entity or religion or anything that takes over every entity on the planet and says this is what you have to do.
No.
So until that happens, and hopefully that doesn't happen, we are still autonomous. We have individual choice. We have individual practice and behavior, but then how those independent entities align and choose to do something coherently and resonantly is part of the ecosystem, right? We're not in any way saying someone prescribes what we do. We ourselves decide what we want to do to the most part.
Clear, yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this planet scale problems is part of the definition. And then we actually have a lot of different things to understand. In other words, how do we interact, both real-time interaction to asynchronous interactions? How do we do it with languages? How do we do it, whether we're tightly bound or loosely bound with each other? How do we do it in short time?
Hang on a second. I'm still on number 3 here.
Okay.
To solve planet scale problems, I like to take problems, do the magic problems and transform them into the systemic domain. This is like Fourier transform.
Okay.
And see them there. And I don't know if we can somehow, because lots of people dive straight into solving planet. They try to solve climate change. I don't even want to find the cure to cancer. I really want to, if you see what I mean. I want to deal with things systemically. That's kind of my passion. So if you can build a bridge there also.
So I agree with that. I think that any silo, right, that says I'm going to solve this problem or I'm going to solve that problem is almost inherently non-systemic, right?
Yeah.
Look at the impacted systems. It doesn't look at the interaction between systems. And therefore, it's kind of, in a sense, only doing the first approximation.
Right, and often it's basically just doing the usual symbolic gag. We feel we are doing a great deal, but avoiding confronting the systems, which is, it's a social taboo at this point.
So I really agree with you there, right? So let me add this notion of systemically. Is that a placeholder? Do you want to add more there?
No, if you're saying to solve planet scale problems systemically, is that it, or you want a special? Okay, no, this is fine.
Right.
Yeah, for example, I mean, we can tweak formulations again.
Yes.
But if you put word systemically somewhere, and maybe I would put it into solve planet scale problems systemically. That's.
I have no issue with that.
Okay, but then we're done.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here are the dimensions across we need to understand our interactions. Okay. Okay. Now it's already going through them. You can actually be looking at all of these. There's all these dimensions of consideration, whether we're interacting in real time or whether we're interacting asynchronously, whether we're interacting across languages.
We, as a rule, are, I think.
Always are, right? Yeah. This is that notion of Dictopedia. Whether we're interacting with kind of tight accountability and tight feedback cycles, or whether they're loose, whether we're working in a short time frame or a long time frame, whether we're looking tactically or we're looking strategically, whether we're looking as enrolled versus voluntarily aligned. There's probably other dimensions here, but these are at least, ones that already complicate the entire space. Okay. We can even talk about different organizational models. Okay. I also make a reference here to this document, which I think you've seen before, which is, actually, let me make this bigger.
The Dictipedia prototype.
Yeah, this is basically the terms and concepts page that tries to encapsulate at least the first set of 300 or so terms and concepts that are in this space. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to frame the problem, we go back to Engelbart, we go to Jansch, we look at, and let me see, what did I say? There's probably a blog I want to put together here about the background and problem. This is not very well structured. I wanted to say, we're standing on other people's shoulders. We think this is a valid field of inquiry. We think it's interesting because the scalability of the problem is something I don't think has previously been addressed. You know, people look at organizational development, people look at teamwork, people look at leadership in the domain of a single organization or a single company.
Right.
And I don't think yet people have looked at this as how do we get the planet to align? How do we get all the people here to at least have some sort of constructive behavior model?
Right. At a certain point, I'm going to ask you, how do you see the relationship between systemic innovation and collaborology? You know, it may be an open question, or you know, but you can address it at some point, or we can just put it in somehow.
Okay, I think that you don't have proper collaborology principles unless you think systemically. And I think systemic innovation almost will drive a lot of collaborology principles. And I say this because I think you and I both like to think of each other or ourselves as having a mathematical background. So I think if you look at it from a mathematics standpoint, you have to look outside in. You have to look at boundary conditions. And you have to look at how all the variables interact, not just the first one, two, or three. You're not looking at a first order problem, second order problem, or third order. You have to look at the entire set of coefficients and interactions and all the cross product. Because without that, you're not being systemic.
That's it.
Right?
Or I like the mathematical metaphor. You know, you have a system of equations to solve, and you solve one of them, find a solution that fits one of them, and say, well, it's kind of a solution. Well, it's not, right? So,
or it's an approximation and it's good enough, right? Let me just do the linear approximation and it's good enough.
Right. Or three equations and solve these other ones, because then it becomes easy.
Right.
No, that's very cool. My sense is that collaborology and systemic innovation converge in an interesting way.
They must. In other words, you cannot have proper collaborology principles and practices if you don't understand the systemic impact of them.
Right.
You cannot systemically innovate if you're not able to collaborate on a scale that we're talking about.
Right, and not only, but my sense is that ultimately, you know, this is this whole evolutionary paradigm. You can dream up what you would like the systems to be, but number one, they're not going to be like that, and number two, you have no assurance that you're dreaming up correctly. So evolution is the right way, and collaborology is essentially systemic evolution, because that's what you're talking about. Right? You're talking about.
I mean, bootstrapping, you know, and systemic evolution has to be part of the model, right? There's no one, you, me, nobody, that's going to say this is the right thing, practice this, and that will apply from here on out, right?
No.
The models, the practices, the principles have to learn. They have to evolve. And without that inherent in the model, this is, of course, going to break down.
That's it. So we are building some bridges terminologically, right? And from the point of view of the worldview. Now, Alexander would call this curating for emergence, right? Or maybe design for evolution. To the point. So if you want the system to evolve, then to begin with, you have, or if you want disparate projects to evolve into a remedial system, you want to create some kind of dynamic that will allow them to evolve in a good way, right? Or co-evolve. There is some kind of co-evolution that is happening. Are you with me?
Yes, completely. I'm noting them down.
co-evolution, or you can say systemic innovation in the same line, and then we have it all.
It's right here. So let me bring this up here.
Perfect. Oh, yeah, that's great.
Right?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, perfect. Okay, yeah.
Which I think Doug was using the word bootstrapping for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the interesting thing. I think each entity has its own rhythm, right? In a typical agile project, you can say, hey, do this every 2 weeks or do it every month, but you may decide to pray every night. I may decide to go to church once a week. Everybody has their own rhythm by which they retrospect, they introspect, they peer-spect. And I think that is a model which right now has interesting implications. Because one of the ideas of bootstrapping is you learn with every iteration. So how quickly you want to learn is, in a sense, one way you decide how often you want to do this cyclical behavior. Now, we in the Amigos, we really haven't had too many retrospectives and perspectives formally, even though we do have them ad hoc from time to time. So what I'm looking for is a way to do this much more consciously, much more explicitly, than to just have them accidentally happen.
Right. Where are we now in the list?
We're still in the background and problem right here.
Okay. Yeah.
So let me back up. Okay. So we're here in the background and problem. Okay.
I don't see this. I don't see perspectives and retrospectives and things. I don't quite understand.
That's not yet here part of the background. That's going to be part of the proposed practices and principles and solution.
Okay, cool.
So that'll be later.
So let me just see. So background and problem, then this should point to perspectives by naming problems that perspectives might address.
Okay. I call that asynchronous learning cycles, that point that I was just making earlier.
That's super cool. And then there is something which I call alignment. And I don't know if you should assume it in systemic innovation, but maybe not.
Okay, what's that point?
Alignment.
How we align?
Alignment. Yeah, exactly. The point being, I wrap it up in Henry Ford metaphor. Henry Ford metaphor being that for a major systemic change to happen, let's say in transportation, you need all kinds of sectors to align, like road building, oil drilling, gas stations, all kinds of things, right? But and vice versa. It's an opportunity for immense value creation and contribution in a variety of sectors. So the question is, how do the characters align so that all things are in place for this kind of major, systemic re-evolution to happen? The kind of phase shift, a flip from horse to automobile. Or from horse and train to automobile, right?
See, I think that's very interesting from a big paradigm standpoint. What I'm also interested in is that there's a lot of little things that go on every day, right? So from a big paradigm standpoint, you can't have automobiles without roads, right? I completely agree with that. You can't have filling stations.
Right. I mean, you can, but the thing is that then it's not a means of transportation. It's a toy for rich people.
Or it only has local impact, right? It doesn't have
exactly. So Henry Ford, his contribution, if it was a contribution, right? But his gift to the mankind was to make automobile basic means of transportation for the masses. Right. And you need then all kinds of elements. You need to mass produce automobiles on a conveyor belt. You need all the things mentioned and more. But my point is that the reason why this is important, right, is because the kind of solutions that we the people need today, solutions in quotes, solutions to problems, may well require exactly this kind of dynamic. Don't you agree?
See, Dino, I think you hit on something that may explain some of the difficulty we've been having with you, me, Frode, Alexander, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because imagine we're trying to build a transportation system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to come up with how the lights turn red, green, yellow, etc. And I'm trying to figure out how the steering works. Somebody else is trying to figure out, how the gas is going to be produced and distributed to everybody. Somebody else is trying to figure out, what's the right proper constitution of asphalt,
Yes.
So that's what we're doing. Frode is looking at how do you create interaction styles with this kind of information. Time Browser is doing another part of the problem. Collaborology is trying to do another part of the problem. Poliscopy is trying to do another part of the problem. ELC is trying to do another one. DKR is trying to do another one. Global Sim is trying to do another one. Dictopedia is trying to do another one. And that's why these maps that I'm trying to put together are attempts to try and see how they connect. We're trying to see how does the transportation system fit with the fueling system, fit with the legal system, fit with the insurance system, fits with all the driving systems, blah, 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 right? And so we have this problem where if I'm working on the lights, do I want everybody to work on the lights? No, I don't want everybody to work on the lights. I want you to work on the asphalt. I want you to work on the transportation stuff. I want you to work on the mass production, right? We have to understand that. And right now we have this, it's a dearth of resources. We have so few resources that we think, my lights are not going to get created if not everybody works with me. But I need to work on the lights. You need to work on the asphalt. Somebody else needs to work on the steering. Somebody else needs to work on the road network.
Yeah.
And that appreciation, I think, is lost when we say we all need to get together and put together one single project.
Yeah. There is psychology in the situation. There is pragmatics, social and friends dynamic. We have lots of issues to deal with, but I think we are largely discovering them and dealing with them. So we are reasonably okie-dokie.
So I think, Dino, the one principle and the one practice that has worked for us, almost to the exclusion of everything else, is show up. Don't quit.
Yeah, I think we have learned that one. You and I, in any case.
Yeah, you and I have had our issues. We acknowledge that, right? And we probably still will. But both of us keep coming back. And that's why I think this is working. Because every time we come back, eventually we get a new insight.
Yeah, of course.
A new set of connections. I mean, just think about what's happened in the last 3 or 4 months around poliscopy and collaborology and the understanding that the maps allow us to get, right? That would not have happened if we just completely went our own way after the first disagreement.
No. And then I think we are just about uncovering the potential.
Yeah, but I'm going to get rid of this particular point right here. It's collaborology and not collaborology. Okay.
I think so. I like collaborology.
Yeah. Okay.
And anyway, it's already out there.
So I think this how we align in multiple sectors things. This is definitely an intersystemic viewpoint, right? A lot of different subsystems. How do we interact? How do they feed each other? How do they depend on each other? How do we enable each other? Those are all different ways of saying we have to understand the big picture, and then we understand how we plug into the big picture. Okay. So obviously all of this is work in progress, but let me jump to then some key questions that in my mind drive collaborology. And they start with, why do some teams succeed? Why do some teams fail? Why do some leadership styles work? Why do some leadership styles work at certain scales, but not at others? And there's probably a little bit too much influence on leadership styles, but think of this as personal leadership as well. How do each show up so that the collaboration can work?
Definitely, yes.
Right? And when do you spin a team or project out?
I like that. So put it in parentheses, maybe in parentheses, personal with leadership, right? That works. Excellent. Yeah.
Okay. So this one here, I think is really an interesting one, which is, suppose you have a community that's all kind of floating about the same quote unquote large topic, right? And at some point, a subset of that community says, oh, we really know what to do. So they form a project or an LLC or a company or an open source project, and they say, we're going to go off and do this. Well, the conversation in the entire community has led to that conclusion, but there might be a very, very closely related conclusion that's not very different, right? Somebody could say, I'm going to form company A, and somebody could say, well, company A is missing this one key component, so they're going to form company B, and now, unfortunately, you have A and B as potential competitors. And we've seen this in our own community a lot, right?
Yeah.
ELC, we have COI, we have Well Tried, we have Nick of Nicks, you know, and in some way, they're mostly the same idea. And yet, we have people that say, this is my project, so I'm going to run with this. But there's like 89% overlap with 3 or 4 other projects that are in this space.
Yeah.
That is one of the smart people problems. That is clearly a crucial smart people problem. So this is why I say when you spin a team or project or a company out of a community, this is a crucial decision. Because if you decide to do it too much, you deplete the resources, you dilute the resources, and now you create potential competitors. But if you don't allow that freedom to happen, then you're too restrictive. And you're now being in some kind of a prescriptive mode. So this, I think, is one of the key problems that I don't yet understand, but I think it's one that collaborology ought to focus on.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we'll talk about this.
Smart people problem number 1, by the way, is I want to work on my project.
Right. There is also there is some kind of basic ethical question. When I say ethical, I mean in some very general sense. Let's say, you know, this is again one of the things that Alexander is bringing into the soup. He's going to say there is a paper that he wrote with his father, which is basically saying that general evolution theory is providing a kind of a rational ethics, and you can identify general evolution theory at this point with collaborology for practical purposes. Don't worry about the differences, right, if there are any. And so the point will be that we do want to create a better world. We do want projects to succeed. And then the question is, what should our ethical stance be for this to happen? Essentially, we develop ourselves as good collaborators, right? By studying collaborology. So there is some kind of ethical dimension in all this, which you know, both follows from collaborology and then feeds into collaborology to have good collaboration.
In fact, that's a good clarification of one of my main motivations for doing collaborology.
I think so, yeah.
Know how I can best show up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we talked about this a lot.
Right. And it's always the case that I'm interested in the things where I'm deficient.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, psychiatrists or counselors going into counseling because they've needed a lot of counseling. I'm trying to go into collaborology because I need to know how to collaborate better. Right.
Yeah. You just mentioned, you know, without distracting too much. I was maybe I told you about this when I was giving this talk. It will be written up in a blog post at a certain point. Talking in Suan Mok, you know, this kind of final evening, and I was telling to the guys we have problems that our best minds don't know how to solve. But what is here, the meme that is here, and it really has to do with ethics. It has to do with understanding something about you know, what is good for the human being. we don't know about it. It's this selflessness thing. Now, if you take this meme and embed it into our workplaces, our corporations, our institutions, our homes, the world changes and the problems are solved automatically. We don't need to worry about this. So there is something, right, that yeah.
I'm with you on that. if we grow up, if we mature, if we learn how to show up properly,
Right.
97% of the world's problems will go away.
Yes, yes. And the rest, we'll just have fun solving together.
Yeah, because it's just like, the rest of it is like, do we drive on the right side of the road or left side of the road, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
It's that
yes.
kind of problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have questions to the drive collaborations for the time being. For my sake, there. Okay. Shall we move on? Or? Yeah, that's great. I like that.
Right. Okay, so let's keep going, okay? So problems. How do we know we're aligned? I think that's a big one, right? We've been struggling with that one ourselves. What do we do when we disagree? How do we know the team is aligned? Not just two people, but the entire team. How do we recruit? We could also say enrolled. So other people like to use this word enrolled. Okay. This is probably too short a list. I know there's going to be other.
It is, yeah. I'm thinking about the basic CCC and other things that we're talking about. What are the tools and practices, right?
Exactly.
Is that a special? Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't mind at some point I know that point is today, maybe not. Yeah, I would like to talk about the role of these specific things at this point at some point, but maybe next time, right? That we go through properly through exactly the roles of tools and practices. Maybe that's a special. So, what are the tools and practices and their respective roles, right? I think we should have a separate conversation about this in some detail.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe if we aim today to complete this list, just go through it, that will probably be
a survey of the outline. I think is good. I think let's just take a few more minutes. But I agree with you. I think this is a very rich area for us to focus on potentially next Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so shall we be agreed on that?
Yeah.
Next Wednesday we'll dive into this particular section right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent.
Let's just try and go through the rest of this. This is a random question. What's necessary to constitute a team? In fact, let me just move this one up to these problems in consideration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, attempts to rigorize. So basically, I'm trying to see if we can get so, I would say, rigorous as to create a theory of collaborology, okay? And perhaps even a language of collaborology, and the placeholder I'm using for that right now is sociomatics, the mathematics of collaborology, basically.
Right.
You can actually model interactions and use predictive modeling to then do some predictions. That's the dream. I don't know if that dream can actually happen, but anyway, so that requires a language. It requires definitions of terms and operators and entities and concepts. Mapping to models, sociomatics. It must be descriptive, but to be useful, it must be predictive as well, right? It has to have predictive power. Anyway, this is in the dreaming stage.
I don't think it. I mean, my sense is that this is where it's going, right? But so that's in an evolved state. What we are talking about should basically aim at something like this. You could say we're not ready yet, but
thank you. Yes, I'm certainly in agreement that we're not ready yet. But I'm just sharing my dream with you, Dino.
Mhm.
Okay, let's do this. All right, let's take a few more.
What do you mean by sociomatic?
What?
Sociomatics, you mean something that is measurable about society, or?
No, I'm
Or-
calling the language, the mathematical language of collaborology.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Now, this may actually be overlapping with tools and practices, because here is what we're trying to put down the first specific contributions of collaborology. This is 8 now. So I think this list and this list up here is probably an overlap, but I can reorganize this later. So, the first artifacts, this is CCCs. This is the identity infrastructure. This is Dictopedia. Let me get rid of Lexipedia. Unless, I don't know, it's a name that's still under consideration. I like Dictopedia myself, but we can talk about that. There's WYSIDO, which was not in this current list. The DKR itself, Global Sim, Learn Tweets. Let's get rid of that name. It's actually Tweets now. So each of these has a little bit of detail to it. Just to let you know where some of this is going. I'm not going to delve into each of these because we've talked about them enough for today's purposes. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then the rules of engagement. This is very, very, very early on. This is, rules of engagement was probably the very first name for collaborology before I came up with collaborology. So this is very old thinking. It's probably not very extensive. Okay. So anyway, I'll probably roll this into other aspects of collaborology. Anyway, Dino, I've taken these ideas. I've taken the collaborapedia.info site. I've taken some of the diagrams, but you know, occasionally I find it more useful to think in outline form. Other times it's more useful to think in diagrammatic form. Other times in a mind map. Eventually, all of this hopefully will come together. But anyway, thank you for allowing me to go through the outline, imperfect and incomplete as it is, and sort of help set a point on which we can hopefully have future discussions. Next Wednesday, I think the suggestion to talk about specific contributions is a good one. So I think that can drive the tools and practices conversation next Wednesday.
This is great. I have one more theme, actually. Are we done today? You have to run, or what?
Yeah, I think we're done with this outline. I don't have to run yet, but let's cover whatever it is you'd like to add.
Right. I'll have to run in 5-10 minutes, but I'm picking up Noah.
Okay.
Every Wednesday, pretty much. It's about what you just mentioned. It is that there are other ways to represent this, and that's exactly the idea of domain mapping, right? So we might use this conversation to play with the functionality of the domain map also. And I think one of the things that we need for Dubrovnik is a domain map of collaborology.
Yes.
So if you can come up with something that is functional, then we can ask the people to populate the domain map and to co-create it interactively further, right? Because the idea is that we open up the domain map and then people study from the domain map. They essentially use the domain map to navigate through the whole field of knowledge. And also we're creating a way how a community can co-create the domain map, because people will come with modules and they will say, hey, my module is not on the domain map. Well, we'll say, let's put it on.
Yeah. So good, you know, I included that here in questions that drive collaborology. How do we co-develop collaborology, right?
All right.
I just added that last meme right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course,
then there is a question of a visual representation of the domain map.
Right.
Or rather, visual representations, because there has to be many.
Yes.
It's like different kinds of maps, right?
Okay?
Great.
Dino, thank you for your patience for going through this.
No, this was pure fun. No patience needed.
And I will hope that someday I have that collaboration conversation with Frode. But I'm also going to give him some time to hopefully consider what happened this morning and yesterday.
Yeah, I think he's probably going through a lot. I just hope that we can be good enough.
I'm also very aware, if there's anything that I've done to piss him off, I will look at that. So that's why I'm going to post the video from yesterday. And if anybody actually cares to see it and give me feedback, again, like I said, I am open to that and want to engage on that.
I'll try, but count on me on being 10 times oversold. It's that serious. I'm like totally drowning. It's kind of pathetic.
Aren't we all?
But in a good way, it's all good stuff, so I don't mind drowning.
We don't want to be bored, do we?
No.
All right, Dino.
Okay, thanks. Take care. And I show up tomorrow, and we see if we can have some kind of conversation. No obligation.
I'm there. Been there. We'll be there.
Okay.
By the way, this Friday is one of the Fridays I'm not available. So tomorrow,
I'm probably not available Friday either.
And then Sunday, Monday. Okay.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay. Take care. My greetings to the lady.
I will. Thanks.
Oh.
See you, Dino.